Okay. Hey, so when Joe asked me to come and speak to his staff about the EB-5 program, I was glad to do so. In particular, I wanted to talk about the fact that the EB-5 program has been around for over 25 years. And the Regional Center program, which started in 1993, is the one that I'm speaking to his staff about today. That one enables a foreign national to secure their conditional visa, which leads to a permanent green card. So it's a conditional green card leading to a permanent green card. And the requirements are you must create 10 full-time jobs, and you must put $1 million of capital at risk and $500,000 of capital at risk in what's called a TEA, which is a targeted employment area. Now, those numbers are expected to go up significantly when Congress is expected to renew the program in 2018. Some people are saying that the minimum investment is going to be $925,000 USD, maybe as high as well over $1 million USD for a targeted employment area investment. But the point is that the foreign nationals' money has to be at risk. It has to be employed in a job-creating enterprise, which is a new enterprise, and the industry jargon is NCE and JCE. Job-creating enterprise, new commercial enterprise. So if you've got a new commercial enterprise which creates 10 permanent jobs and deploys that capital, that $1 million number that we're talking about, into the project, and you can demonstrate that it's at risk for the requisite period, then the USCIS should be able to issue that conditional and finally that permanent green card. And the way it goes is you submit an I-526 petition through your immigration attorney to the USCIS, and the petition sets forth the business plan of the project. It sets forth the economic model under which you expect to create your 10 jobs per investor. And the USCIS adjudicates that petition. Usually can take up to 2 years for the adjudication of that petition, anywhere from 18 months to 24 months, depending upon how quickly they're processing. And once the foreign national investor secures that conditional green card, 90 days, it's good for 2 years, and 90 days prior to the expiration of that 2-year period, you apply for the permanent green card. And that permanent green card is good for a period of 10 years, and that leads to U.S. citizenship. And one of the things that people don't quite understand is once you have your conditional green card, although you have to demonstrate an intent to stay in the United States, you're free to travel back and forth. They don't like to see you traveling for too long of a period within any particular year. However, you are free to travel and you enjoy all the benefits of a U.S. citizen, except for you can't vote. And once you obtain your permanent green card, your conditions are removed, and as I said, it's good for a period of 10 years. So there are a lot of advantages to securing the green card through the EB-5 program, especially in today's political environment where immigration to the U.S. is becoming more and more difficult. You've got a new administration that came to power a year ago, and they are definitely cracking down, number one, on illegal immigration, and number two, they're making legal immigration more difficult in the United States. The idea of the new administration is we don't want too many workers coming in to compete with our domestic labor market and creating competition and keeping wages down. So the Trump administration wants to curtail both definitely illegal and even legal immigration. They're going to be getting rid of the visa lottery program. We've seen a lot of press on that issue. So anybody who is relying on the visa lottery to get into the United States is going to have a tough time. And all of the other employment-based preferences to obtain your green card are also getting much, much more difficult to secure one through. So we believe that the only real solid opportunity to obtain your green card in the United States is through the EB-5 program. And it's a good program. In my opinion, it's not going anywhere soon. That program, like I said, has been around for over 25 years. And it is constantly renewed when it expires. And it is currently in the process of being renewed again this year under a continuing resolution. And we expect more permanent legislation to be in place sometime during 2018. And I'd be lying if I told you I knew how long the renewal would be for. It could be for a period of 5 years, who knows? But one thing I would be willing to bet on is the EB-5 program is not going away anytime soon. I think they're going to make it more regulated, which is a good thing. I think they're going to make it more difficult to define a TEA. And that is something that was essentially caused by all these projects going up in New York, where they found that all of the EB-5 money, not all of it, but a lot of it, was going into these large metropolitan areas like New York, Los Angeles, and Miami. I think a product that will serve the inner cities, that will serve the urban areas, more so than the New York downtown and the Miami beachfront and the downtown Los Angeles areas. I think those projects will do quite well simply because they reflect more of what the EB-5 program was really intended to do, and that is to create employment in areas where unemployment was high. So if you've got markets in places like Chicago, Indianapolis, Detroit, that haven't seen a huge influx of EB-5 money, I think those are going to be addressing the true benefits of the EB-5 program. We've seen some in Washington, D.C., which have been very good to help regentrify neighborhoods, and projects in cities in the Midwest, such as Detroit, such as Chicago, Indianapolis, and that whole Rust Belt area, if you will. Those types of EB-5 projects, I think, will be well received, at least on the basis that they truly address creating employment in high unemployment areas. So that's a very important aspect. The way that people structure EB-5 programs varies. Most EB-5 programs that you'll see in the marketplace are loan-based, whereby you've got an issuer who goes out and raises money and then turns around and loans it to a project. That is by far the most common form of an EB-5 investment. The much less popular, much less taken route, if you will, is one whereby the EB-5 investor becomes the actual owner of his own project. And that is very different from being the lender to a project whereby you're simply acting as a lender versus being an owner. They've all got their plus and minuses. I personally like the equity program because you've got direct ownership in the project versus being a creditor. One of the other aspects of the EB-5 program that I like a lot are through the regional center, you're allowed to, in terms of your job count, your 10 job per investor requirement. I like the fact that under the regional center program, you're able to count both your direct employment, your indirect employment, and your induced employment. So you've got a situation where you can achieve your 10 job per investor requirement much more easily because you're counting all those jobs. You're counting the workers on the site. You're counting the supply chain jobs created. You're counting the dry cleaner adding on to his staff across the street, the additional McDonald's workers. These are all tabulated in formulas under economic models. But when you put the inputs into your model pursuant to your business plan, they demonstrate that you can create your 10 jobs per investor much more easily under the Regional Center program than via any direct investment program. That is the main reason, in my opinion, that the Regional Center program's gotten so popular, is the job creation requirements are much easier under the Regional Center sponsored programs. You want to make sure that you're working with a very strong regional center, because that sponsor is going to be with you for the length of it, whether it be 4 years, 5 years, whatever the case may be. You want to make sure you have a strong regional center sponsor. You want to make sure that you have a strong business plan writer and a strong economist, because your project is going to largely depend on the analysis and the work product and the due diligence and the vetting of a good economist, a good business plan writer, and somebody who understands pro formas and numbers. Your project has to make sense. You do not want to invest in a project where your project does not make economic sense. You want an experienced management team. You want people who are not just getting into a particular business, but people who've demonstrated an ability to create and successfully execute business models in the past. I think that the track record aspect is very important to any EB-5 program. You don't want to be participating in something where you're experimenting with someone who is throwing an idea against a wall. You want something that has been proven, somebody who's very well experienced, so you're minimizing your risk. And speaking of risk, the USCIS requires that your foreign national investors that you're going to be speaking to requires that that money be at risk, quote unquote, throughout the process. So you want to be in a situation where even though your clients, your foreign national clients, may not like it, their money does have to be at risk. It has to be at risk throughout the process. And that means that money has to go into the project. It can't be used outside of the project. It must go into the project and remain so until such time as you've complied with all the requirements under your 829 petition to remove conditions. So I would warn anybody that you want to make sure you have experienced people, they have a solid business plan, they have a good economic report, they have a strong pro forma. They're only dealing with well-respected professionals who have a lot of experience in EB-5, and that this is not their first go-around. If you can find a project that has all those elements, and you've got good people who want to be in the business for the long run, people who pay attention to the industry, people who are at the industry conferences, people who are paying attention to the new legislation and what's being talked about, people who care about the industry, who want to be working with people who have best practices and adhere to best practices versus making a quick buck. I think that you've got a good formula for success. What you don't want to do is simply invest in a project because it happens to be the popular project around town, or they've got great marketing materials. You want to stay away from anything that is not a solid project that makes sense. The project has to fundamentally make sense, because your concern, your client's concerns, and I'm speaking to the staff here, is remember their concern. They want to make, number one, sure that they're going to get their conditional and permanent green card. Number two, they want to make sure that they're going to be getting their capital back. Even though it's at risk, they want it back. And number three, they're going to want some sort of return on their investment. The return on the investment is typically the most minor consideration. The most important is, by all means, it's definitely they want to get their conditional and permanent green card. because that green card is good for a period of 10 years, that permanent green card, and can be renewed, and it is a clean path to citizenship. So those are all the requisite items that I would watch out for. And I would also make sure that if you have projects where people are turning around and lending the money to another party, to a third-party project, you should look at those a little bit more carefully. My own advice would be you want to work with people who are going into their own projects, sponsoring their own projects, and dealing directly with those people. And again, they're not playing banker. They're out there working on their own deals, and I think that's an important consideration. What else? So we can talk about, let me see here. Yeah.